So we haven't done this in a little while, and I mentioned this in my single person thing. I was by myself and I recorded. That's what I mean. What?
Your single person thing.
You know what I meant, right?
You mean you made a podcast by yourself?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
me and Christina, okay, the reason I find this funny is because me and Christina are really trying to stop saying this, that, and thing. Because we realize...
That's probably good.
We realize because they're almost filler words, and they're not very descriptive when we're trying to teach a young child how to describe the world around them and be specific about pick up the blue ball, sweep with the red broom.
It's true, yeah.
That sort of thing.
That's totally true. And I wanted to kind of bring that up as a point because I talked about that a little bit in the one-off Singleton podcast, if you want a really good descriptor.
Right. So I mean, we kind of do it, and it's very natural to have some filler words, but it really...
It doesn't help you.
It hurts your credibility. It is a sort of intellectual slothness, and we've been focusing on it.
That's good. Totally deserved that you laugh at my horrible description of it, especially when we're trying to do an audio medium here. Right. But anyway, so we haven't done it in a while, and that's okay. You know, you had a human baby.
Yeah.
And he's now a little over 1.
Yeah, a little over 1.
And so that takes up a lot of time.
Yeah, well, we also moved, and when it comes to like...
Twice.
Twice. Being motivated about like getting everything that you want to do done and getting the house in order, and like even right now, like we're talking about like redoing our floors. So all the stuff that we did to like anchor furniture in the wall is going to have to be done, taken down, possibly redo the floors and then put back. And so it's depending on like what you're doing with their life. You can have hiatuses, and that's just how it goes.
Yep, and that's fine. And I think I'll probably still make the one-off singletons every once in a while.
Yeah, I definitely, I listened to it, and I thought, you know, it's a way to basically empower yourself being productive, you know. If it's a medium to basically be out there and discuss what's on your mind, because that's basically all that we're doing. I mean, I do like the dual aspect of it, because you get contrary decisions and you get some sort of argumentative overtones, which is sometimes entertaining.
I totally thought of this when I was doing it, because I was like, for a while I was like, I don't have anybody to bounce off of. I don't have anybody to like tell me when I'm being a dumbass.
Poke fun at.
Well, poke fun at me, but also be like, no, that's really stupid, and why would you say that?
Right.
But I decided to do it anyway. Because I wanted to, and I listened back to it, and I was like, "Oh man, I am way too complainy in that one." So in the future ones, I'm not gonna, hopefully not be as complainy. I'll just talk about what's going on.
I thought it was like grade A millennial material.
That makes me feel so good about it.
I know. Actually, that's why I didn't really say anything. I do think it's like, even if you. I mean, this is what I've been thinking about lately, especially about like, let's do a little bit, I guess, more intro. So one of the very first videos that we watched was a CGP Grey video. And if you don't know who he is, look him up on video. It's CGP Grey.
Not just on video, but on YouTube in particular.
On YouTube. And like, he does very thought-provoking videos. And that's one of the things that inspired us to do the first podcast. And that's actually happens to what we're being about today.
Right. So we did... I've listened to his podcast that he does with somebody who's very different from him, named Brady Heron, and they do a podcast called Hello Internet. And if you've listened to this podcast for long enough, you would have heard us say that before.
We've definitely.
And then he does YouTube videos as well. And in one of our talks, we talked about his video, Humans Need Not Apply.
No.
And that's just a fantastic video. And he releases stuff periodically, and I like it. And he released something recently that I liked, and we decided that it'd be a good topic for today.
Yeah, and I'm going to go a little bit out of order. We'll probably like talk a little bit about it, but like one of those things was like motivations. And it does happen to be like, you know, like obviously a podcast when you can make it a little bit more interactive is good, but at the same time, like if it's going to be a mechanism for you to be empowered or motivated or get yourself out there, that's the way that I really think that you should just do it. Like,
yeah.
And that goes for every one of us, you know, like, you know, I've been thinking about like doing some things myself where like what's been like stopping me is like, you know, feeling that I have enough information or feeling educated. And I'm just like, you know what, sometimes you have to just go out there with the idea that you actually might fail, or you might achieve a product or a project that might kind of be cobbled together. Yeah. You might want to like, you know,
I totally have this problem.
Throw against like a tiled walkway that's going to be perfect, but it might just look like a terrible cobblestone path.
Right. And I totally get this all the time, and I get in my own head about it. And, you know, it's just like normal insecurities that lots of people, you know, most people have, unless you're like, we've talked about this, just us before, that like you have this theory that, or that you and Christina have this theory that that a CEO has to be like psychotic in some way to have achieved like that much social success.
There's actually been several sort of, I guess, stories released on NPR, because they did an original where like they invited this guy to talk about his recent book. And his recent book was basically a study on whether or not he has achieved success because he's a sociopath. And he's like, so I don't think it's a problem, but then I saw like a lot of the things that I really valued, you know, I would see sociopathic tendencies, and I was just like, how many of these CEOs are sociopathic? And like it turns out that like once you kind of like do the psychological analysis, right, you can't, obviously getting a CEO to sit down and answer your psych questions is probably not going to happen, right? But you can basically say, you know, do they fit this criteria? And it kind of turns out that a lot of CEOs are sociopaths or have sociopathic tendencies.
Right.
And so they followed up on it, and they've like been getting more and more. And it's obviously become pretty interesting in the NPR world, where they're just like, we've released another study today where we've documented more sociopathic tendencies in people who do this and that. And it just happens to be that a lot of the aspects come down to, you know, most people think of sociopaths as more like the Hitler or Stalin aspects because they're also like genocidal maniacs, right? But the thing is that like when you start fulfilling this criteria, like you realize that there's a lot of people who run our country and like run big businesses and whatnot
who fit into
this criteria,
right?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that like my insecurities about like making things and producing things and being like, oh, I like suck and I'm a failure,
right,
means that I'm not a sociopath,
right?
And
but
that's
I mean,
encouraging.
I would say that's positive. Sometimes
I agree.
Sometimes I think the encouraging thing would be to be like, I'm going to, you know, I'm going to motivate my inner sociopath. I'm going to be damn right about it. I'm going to be the most amazing person on the board, and no naysayer will ever get me down because I'm the golden boy.
Because I'm a golden god.
I'm and honestly, it's like, it's kind of interesting because they have that whole aspect of, you know, what Will Smith and would do was like follow the secret. Have you heard of like the idea of The Secret?
This is like often made fun of
it is
in lots of places, and it's because it's just so dumb. It has wait.
There's no scientific bearing.
If you don't know about The Secret is you just have to believe.
Right.
Okay?
So it's the power of positive thinking. And the crazy thing about it is that like it's almost like the new age sort of thing, right? So there was a book called The Secret, if you really want to know.
If you really want to
know. But it is kind of the idea that like there is a mystical aspect to the power of positive thinking, rather than just the sociopathic tendencies where if you have like In other words, like what is a self-fulfilling prophecy? Well, if you feel bad about yourself and you think you're never going to achieve anything,
then you won't.
You won't.
Right.
You'll be which actually has to do directly with our video.
Oh yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about this. Yeah. No, but so yeah. No, that's.
But sometimes, like, but that is the thing. Is that what is the power of positive thinking? Well, the power of positive thinking is that you don't go with a self-defeatist, self-fulfilling prophecy. Instead, you almost set yourself up with a self-prophecy, because like you'll see failures as mere obstacles. You'll see a lot of downtrodden things as opportunities.
I think the sociopaths don't have the social failure as a value.
Right.
And so they can get past that barrier so easily that they just keep trying because they don't mind if they truly don't mind if people are like, oh, well, this person failed. Like, they don't even consider that. right. And that's what makes them able to do this. But the secret is, like, in particular, it's like a mystical power of the universe.
It goes beyond what you would think of the actual power of positive thinking, and actually goes into, like,
it goes beyond a self-fulfilling prophecy. It goes into
that's why it's like a
universe,
new age thing.
Yeah,
like you can change the universe by will alone.
Now. I think that there's this one of my favorite books is The Alchemist. Have you read The Alchemist?
I've read 2 different books called The Alchemist.
It's the good one.
I don't think I've read that one. They actually have like 5 different books called The Alchemist, and I've read it all. I've read 2 of them.
It's more like a parable, and it's about a boy who goes on a journey to achieve his dream.
No, I haven't read
He's a shepherd, and he sells his sheep.
No.
It's super good, and it's the kind of the message of the book. It's very parable-esque, like I said, and the message is that if it's the same thing, it's the power of positive thinking, but it's not about.
It's not a supernatural aspect, yeah.
But the story kind of is, because it says things like, when you want something, the whole universe will conspire in your favor to push you towards that goal.
Well, and people who believe The Secret actually do believe that.
Right. I'm hoping that's like not actually the intention of the author, but it's just it's very uplifting story. Right. Anyway, that comes to mind. But so we watched CGP Gray's video, How to Be Miserable, because
so it kind of takes the different aspect. It's not taking like, okay, what can you do with the power of positive thinking? Instead, what can you do with the power of negative thinking?
Yeah.
And how do you maximize that? Like,
how do you make that so bad for yourself?
Yeah, you've heard of min-maxing your character in video games. We're gonna min-max our character, our RPG real life character, to be the most miserable and sad person on the face of the planet. How are you gonna do that?
For somebody to actually do that, it would be like borderline insanity. I don't think anybody would actually deliberately make themselves miserable for like ever.
No, I completely disagree with you.
And know it, with the caveat that they knew that their goal was like that they're aware they wanted to be miserable. I think some people do that by like accident, like they just like.
I think 98% of all people probably do this by accident, but I do think that there are conscientious self-destructors.
Yeah, I feel like those people are few and far between, and they probably have a serious mental disorder. Like that's.
I would say that I would hold myself in this category at one point in time, right? So
you did this you did some stuff that like I still don't get.
So in college, right, I was a non-conscientious, self-destructive personality, right? But then I became a little bit more conscientious about my self-destructive path and actually conscientiously made poor decisions to fuck up my life. And I became homeless.
Did you have military. But did you have I know you did.
Did a whole bunch of things that ideologically do not fit my personality.
Yeah. Was that like did you have in the back of your mind somewhere like, I'm gonna learn something from this? Or was it like, dislike myself and I deserve punishment.
I was so caught up in my own brilliance, actually, that I could construct...
This explains a lot.
Like, catch-22 scenarios. Like joining the military, for example. I'm like, I don't actually believe in the idea of United States foreign policy and power projection, right? But if you join the military and you follow through with it, you're basically empowering an ideology I don't support. If you opt out of it, you fuck your life when it comes to like trying to get government jobs, having a dishonorable discharge on your record. So it's just like, okay, so if I succeed, I suck. And if I fail, I suck. It's a win-win situation on the self-destructive path.
Okay.
And I did that.
I know.
For that reason. So it was a conscientious choice.
So you knew that it would turn out to where...
It was a fail. Yeah.
But this is very far from like the way I think about anything.
Yeah, no. Well, it's a flip-flop. It's basically conscientious self-destructiveness. And most people that actually... I think this is the sad thing, is that most people that flip to this, they succeed hardcore, right? Like if you're really intent on self-destruction and you succeed at it, I think that you take yourself out of the gene pool, basically.
Sure.
So I don't think that there's a lot of examples of people who can basically come in there basically be like, I succeeded on my self-destructive path and I'm not dead.
It's a bonus.
Well, I failed at being self-destructive. I mean, what are you going to say? I was a failure at my own self-destructiveness.
Yeah, but you did end up doing something that was in some ways permanently, like you said, permanently self-destructive because it's on your record, and if somebody does a background check or something, they probably see that. Yeah,
well, I permanently did something to hurt the future. Right? If I had stayed in the military, I would have been a part of the Iraq debacle, and
in some way,
the war of Afghanistan.
Right.
So I would have been, partially individually responsible for that manner of foreign policy and power projection, right? If I, didn't, I was dishonorably discharged because I couldn't handle Iraq. That was just fucked up. So I didn't go to Iraq. I was like, they were like, you're gonna go, right? And I'm like, no. And they're like, no, you're gonna go. Otherwise, you're gonna have all these bad consequences. And you're like, you don't even know. Oh no, slap my hand. You mean
comparatively?
You mean this is going to come up all into my plan that I already had in action, and I get to actually go in a positive.
Okay,
I get to go in a positive direction.
I still don't grok something.
Anyway, that's like past images. That's like
I know we're going back. We're going way back.
We're going way back.
Okay,
anyway.
But wait, why would you decide what you didn't? Was it that you didn't like yourself and you thought, I want to screw myself up? Or was it or maybe it's that and something else, which is, I want to test myself in terms of what I believe?
A little bit like that too, yeah. It was a little bit of both, because I remember being in the Army and going through basic training, and basic training, that's a whole nother topic, but basic training does not give you skills, right? What it's actually trying to do is kind of put you in a mental state where you stop thinking only about yourself and you start thinking of the bigger aspect of being part of a company, being part of a platoon, and being part of a team, because you succeed and fail together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So it's actually all basic training is brainwashing. And I remember being disappointed in Army basic training because it was not strenuous enough to mentally break me. And I was disappointed. I was disappointed that was true.
Maybe this is super arrogant of me. I also feel like that. I would not. No, it wouldn't I would okay. I've watched some videos on Marine training, and I think Marine training would.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, when I was sitting there going through basic training, I'm like, God, I tried to be self-destructive, but I joined the wrong branch. Damn it. This Army basic training, it's two happy rainbow fucking cute puppies, man.
Yeah. Because I think Marine train, like, nobody can get through that and not be, like, permanently altered.
That's the goal, is to get you into a certain mental framework, right? And they've been doing it for 50 years. They're very good at it. It's what's weird is, like, nobody thinks of that as being probably the biggest application of, like, psychological brainwashing on the planet. But I can't think of anything other than...
As somebody who's gone through it, you think that.
I think that, other than maybe public education. It's really hard for
me. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. I think that, like, I don't have any experience there, but as far as I can tell, that totally makes sense, because, like... I think a lot of people make a disconnect between their physical self and their mental self, but there really isn't one. And if you're going to be broken down physically, your mind isn't going to do it.
I mean, people really want to believe that they're like that these are somehow separate things, but honestly, if you sit down and you torture a person, you're going to change them as a person.
Yeah. So anyway,
and the same thing happens to be like, you know, I mean,
not to get all dark, but.
Well, we are talking about how to maximize moves.
Okay, and the reason, right, back to we went down a rabbit hole there, which was totally worth going down. But, CGP Grey, obviously, he read this book, How to Be Miserable, and it's like...
40 different ways that you're already doing.
Or 4 different things you already do, which I really think is interesting. And the goal being... The true goal being that you don't make yourself miserable, but like
it's a bit of reverse psychology in the sense like
you're looking at the what really makes you suck and like taking that to an extreme to the point where you look at the flip side and see that, you know, the other way is better. We're gonna be interrupted here in a minute by said small human child.
It's my son Bacard.
Come here.
Hi Bacard. Can you say anything like "at" or "a" or "eh" or "dad"? I mean, you could really impress if you said "dad" or "up" or actually an actual word, but you know that might not happen. But yeah, like what was the what point, like what on his thing where CPG Grey was talking?
You can't ever say his name.
I know, I can never do it. CGP. Does it have like a
CGP Grey? Yeah.
Does it have like an acronym thing?
No, that's his name. His last name is Grey, and his first initials are CGP.
Okay, well,
it's not revealed. Like nobody knows.
Right. So he's going to be Clyde Gandalf. But like, what was his point on?
Well, I've got his
pursuing happiness directly. Was that number 6?
So he had 7 things in his video.
Right, how to maximize misery.
Yeah, you can watch it if you want. And what were you saying?
Like, what was his bullet point that asks about pursuing happiness directly? Right.
Yeah. So that was you're right. It was number 6, and his thing was. You should pursue happiness directly.
Yeah, if you want to maximize misery.
If you want to maximize misery, right. And the reason is because nobody actually achieves happiness all the time. You can't pursue happiness directly. And by imagining that other people are happy and pursue happiness in this way, you will imagine yourself as missing out.
Well, it's like you know, if only I had a Starbucks, then I'd be happy. If only I won the lotto, then I would be happy. It's like a replacement effect. And the sense is that, like, this whole thing is done in a sort of reverse psychological method, in the sense that, like, even the book he read, which focuses on the 40 different ways that you're already maximizing your misery. It's like one of the best ways to maybe become happier is stop doing all the things that you do that make you miserable. Yeah. Right. So you're not pursuing in that method. You wouldn't be pursuing happiness directly. You'd be getting rid of misery. You'd be getting rid of some of the aspects of your negativity, your negative personality, or your own self-destructive behavior.
So the other one, the one that I think he said the number 1, and I think this is totally true. Is just hold still. Just stay still and don't move. Don't get out of the house. Stay in the same room, basically. Like never leave one area and don't do physical exercise. Yeah. And like, it's totally true. Like, it's so hard to realize that that's happening while you're doing it. Or at least for me, it has been. Like, if I am not exercising, I'm not getting out, I'm not being active as much as I probably should be, I'm more miserable, and I don't know why. I
Oh,
don't.
really?
I'm not aware
Yeah.
that, like, probably if I just went for a walk, I'd feel better.
On a sunny day, a nice day, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, it was kind of funny. Like, so his first bullet point was, stay still. Second was like, screw with your sleep schedule. And 3 was maximize your screen time. And I was like, wow, this is like, I was telling Grant, I was like, wow, this is like an autobiography. Like, this is
Right,
like,
right.
this is my biography right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, you want to screw with your sleep.
Because I have this is like, and this is a product almost of that time. Because like my sleep schedule has been messed up since college.
Yeah.
And
That's bad.
I spend a lot of time online, internet. It's like several hours a day.
It's a cycle. You look at a screen, you're less likely to sleep.
Now there is a big disconnect for me, which is his number 4 point, which was use your screen time to stoke negative emotions. I don't do that.
Okay,
actually.
all right. So, and I think this is another way to put this is consume things via media that are going to upset you, and I think that applies.
Well, you phrased
to
it as bad media, and I think that is a way that you can do it, because the thing is that there are enough biased stuff coming out. Like, if you subscribe to Aryan Nation Monthly, I'm sure that your negative emotions will be stoked,
or
because
Fox News.
You're reading bad media. Well, there's Huffington Post is obviously sometimes very liberal and obviously biased in that aspect too. So there are both liberal and conservative biases.
Yeah,
and
it's like I feel like it's fear mongering in a way where you're like, the world is bad, look how bad it is, and that makes you in some ways want to come back, and it's like I need to keep up on all the ways the world is being bad. And now, don't get me wrong, right now in particular
I don't think
there's some really bad things going on.
I can't disagree with you on that one. But the thing is that, like, I think it actually is more of a I actually think that people are trying to be positive, and this is, like, I think the fucked up thing, is that I think people are trying to use their bad, trolling, hating behaviors to basically feel more positive about themselves. In other words, they're trying to feel justified in their angst. They're trying to create a validation for their hate.
By just like a general bias, which everybody has bias.
Well, it's just like
everybody's.
Sometimes people
biased,
try to feel bigger about themselves by tearing other people down, right? And when you get on a YouTube video and you want to rant and rage, or like, you want to be snide on a Facebook comment, you're not necessarily really going about that in a way that you even is the least constructive. You're probably just you're not actually going to be giving any sort of criticism, because criticism takes some ability of like actual information transfer, where they actually
consideration of the other side.
They consider the other side, right, and they will actually consider your position. If you just turn them off, if you shut them down on that communication, then
you're just it's for you. It's not for them.
Yeah, it's for you. Exactly. Yeah. It's very selfish and self-destructive mean, because it's weird, because usually you think of connecting with people as a form of communication, right? But you can actually use a form of communication to actually, tear yourself apart. Hold on, we need to stop right quick.
This is a good place to take a break anyway, and when we come back, we'll talk about some of the other 7 in the video, because we didn't address those yet.
So we'll just pause?
Yeah. I mean, I am going to just edit all of it later.
Right. So I think where we left off was point number 4, because we're starting.
Well, we were talking about screen time.
We're talking about and I utilize screen time too, and I think we've talked about this before about being a consumer versus a producer. And the thing is that if all you're doing is consuming media and consuming things, like part of production is putting yourself into something, right? So if you're only going to consume, you really kind of take yourself out of a living existence. In other words, you're only existing. You're not really living, because you're not putting yourself into things. You're only like getting out what you can from others people's productions.
Yeah.
So you kind of become a bystander or kind of a
passive entity.
A third party viewer of your own life, almost, yeah.
If you don't produce things. Yeah, and I think that,
Well, that's why I think why maximize screen time is
a path away. Misery.
It's basically a way to disconnect, I think, from what is a living experience versus to an existing
and
experience.
I think that anybody... the term you used earlier was millennial, which is a term I hate. And I sincerely think that anybody who uses it seriously, I can't take them seriously. At the point where they're like, oh yeah, like those millennials. I'm just like, okay, you don't know what you're talking about.
I have to, you get right in there where... You've taken the human aspect of a person and you've labeled it to be a millennial, right? So obviously millennials are devoid of some human aspects because they fall into this thing where you can stereotype them only to be these proportions of the human experience, right?
But I was going to use that word semi-unironically in saying that, like, people around my age it's so easy when you have your phone and you're fluent in the phone's language.
Yeah.
To get lost in it and lose that sense of self and just like get wrapped up in whatever's going on the internet.
Well, it's interesting to think that we've reached a point where our own anthropological tendencies can do us harm, right? It's kind of like, how do we eat too much sugar? Well, at the point when we're, in the caveman existence, 500,000 years of existence, getting sugar into your body was like highly productive because it was so hard to get that energy into your body.
This totally goes straight into number 7. We're not following the video, but like this is number 7.
Yeah,
follow your instincts,
right? Yeah, so it
don't think about the process, don't analyze, just go with your gut. I want to stay comfortable. I want to stay warm. I want to be informed, but not have to take any actions with it. Like this is what you're talking about.
And eating is one of those instinctual... Sex, sleep, eating, pooping, those are very instinctual things. And so it's understandable why there's an obesity problem, right? Because like that sugar, like trying to fight against that is fighting against anthropological tendency.
Yeah, totally.
It's a worthwhile fight, right? Fight your instincts if you want to like avoid that sort of set goal, right? But it's like maximizing your screen time. How is that an instinct? Well,
that's a good question.
Why are we alpha predators? Like we're not strong, we're not fast. There's been a lot of anthropological study that suggests that the way that we ran down predators through endurance.
Right, running. Endurance, right. That's what I was going to say.
But the thing is
adaptability.
That for the most part, the reason that we are alpha predators is because we use our brain.
Yeah.
And this is unprecedented for any species. Which is really crazy when you think about it. Unprecedented for any species.
Yeah.
In the sense that we finally are getting to the place where all of human knowledge and experience is condensed into a movable object. Now, it's not indexed properly. It's, you're trying to follow Wikipedia. It's you're like dead link, right? There's a lot of problem in the archival nature of the human knowledge, but the freaking internet is also like all of human knowledge.
Right, but there's also no prioritization of what's more valuable.
Or even quality control, right? That's the main problem with the internet is there is no quality control.
Right.
You can't get grade A internet material like by typing grade A internet material.
No, you cannot.
In fact, I bet if you type something like that, you're going to get some of the stupidest memes that we've all enjoyed.
Yes. And I think that's actually also the strong suit of the internet, too.
Oh, yeah, but the thing is that
there is no filter.
Right, but the thing is that I think it's very instinctual to see this thing and basically be like, this is what has made us alpha predators. This is what us have made the domineering stewardship of all of nature.
I need to know what's going on.
And honestly, we have a God complex where we really do want to control the fate of our future, right? We want to control
Which is why games are so great.
We even produce things where we can artificially feel that feeling, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's very natural to fall into a thing where you are looking at a screen time as an extension of that sort of process that has, in the past,
served us well.
Yeah. In the past, I think it has allowed us to accumulate, to observe different tribes. You at one point your neighboring tribe would be a potential competition, or it could be used as a resource, right? Where you might bring in, new wankums and be able to smoke the peace pipe and join tribes, and it would be
beneficial for everybody.
New era for everybody, right? And so in the past, there's always been an information deficit, and I think
it's the opposite. Right. In 10 years, it's not even that long of a time that we've had.
About 20 years now, but the thing is survivability has definitely been impacted. I think you could definitely make this argument that survivability has always been helped by a surplus of information in the past. Because there's always an information deficit. And now we have information surplus. Now you're trying to weed through all the bullshit to get that grade A material.
Which brings into number 4, which is use your screen to stoke your negative emotions. And this is you want, the reason you kind of want to do this on some level is because you want to confirm your bias of your fear bias, where you're like, I'm worried about X, and this thing confirms that is true, and that's gratifying in a way.
Yeah, I think when you start looking at it in the sense of what is self-validation, there is so much. At the time, I think in the information deficit world, there was a lot of place for you to kind of make your own name and set yourself apart or become a distinct personality, right?
I know about this thing, and that makes me valuable.
Right. I only exist in this sort of 200 to 2,000 people community. I'm
the blacksmith. Whatever.
I'm the blacksmith who's gregarious and likes to do functions that involve a lot of other people and create social events, right? I happen to live in a large enough town that there are 2 other blacksmiths, but one of them is cranky and the other guy's really old and doesn't really participate in life anymore. So there was a lot to set you apart. But now, there's almost this sort of self-articulation that goes on when people try to be cranky. And of course, it's all really, it's not an additive or cumulative thing. When you get on an internet troll and they're just trying to rant or basically see the world burn, right? That it's only gratuitous to them.
Right. We talked about this earlier off air, off internet, off cord, off the Wi-Fi's. Is that how you pronounce that?
I have no idea.
Wi-Fi.
I get what you're saying.
But we were talking about this earlier, which is that when you see somebody and they're commenting maliciously and they're telling somebody why they're wrong or they're being a jerk or whatever they're doing, it's not really for the person they're doing it to, it's for them.
Yeah, it is a self-gratuitous thing.
And I think that is what this is about. Use your screen to only view stuff that is going to fuel the fire. And I think that happens accidentally when you come across something that does that.
The thing is that it's important, I think, to recognize that we're all susceptible to certain faults. These are human conditions. That's why they are pervasive, right? It's why it's not a minimized sort of locality where you run into weird factions.
When it comes to biases and internet things fueling our emotions?
Yeah, just basically to admit that you yourself could come with a preconceived notion, or you yourself might be biased to material.
And it's really not might be, it's that you are some ways. Yeah. You are.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you have to admit to yourself that you're a human being.
And you're
on some degree you have this fault. On some degree.
You're going to be, what is the word? Fallible?
Well, yeah, fallible or biased. Fallible just mean that you're just going to make mistakes and you're going to be imperfect, Yeah.
So, and then the other one that we haven't really... we did talk about pursuing happiness directly, but I think number 5 is the one we missed, which is and we've talked about this particular subject on its own episode. We talked about goals. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because I think I've told you before that, I find that I get the self-gratification of feeling like I've accomplished something when I tell somebody.
This is a like measurable thing that people have measured as far as I know.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
a scientist. It's been a scientific study.
But this isn't related necessarily to that. This is more vapid versus smart goals. And those words, vapid and smart, they are acronyms for something else.
Well, this is like, we both like playing games. So I think this is like, for any gamer out here, I think this is a good time to realize that you have to wonder what you're doing in your life. I'm going to talk about a personal vapid goal that I had at one period of time. Okay. And it involved Diablo 2. And my job in Diablo 2 was to collect all of the set pieces, right?
In the
game that would make up like, oh, you've collected all of Diablo's set. You now have these characteristics, right? And if you think about it, how many of us go onto our Xbox and like look at our achievement menu and be like, what else do I need to do on Goat Simulator to get 100%?
No, you're so wrong. And I'm going to tell you why. That was not a vapid goal at all.
Oh.
Your goal of set collecting in Diablo is not vague. By the way, this is what vapid stands for. It's not vague. It's not amorphous. It's not pie in the sky, because you can accomplish it. It might be the eye, which is irrelevant.
Okay, and
then the last one is delayed in vapid. So games do this extraordinarily well. They make smart goals that are specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-defined. This is why games are so popular and why they click in people's brains. It's because you look at a goal in a game and you know what to do, you know how to do it, you know how to get there, you know it's accomplishable because somebody made it to be, and you know you've got a certain amount of time to do it. And in any game you play, it might be irrelevant, okay? It might be the eye in Vapid where you're like, I'm doing a thing that totally is meaningless. But it is not vapid in the other ways because it is a game and games are good at getting you to accomplish the goal in the game.
I can see in the sense of like, if you really want to focus on basically vague, undefined goals, right? That have like, this is the problem I had with a person that I was close to, a foster child. Who I realized that I ended up having this conversation where I'm like, okay, you need to get rid of a certain word in your vocabulary. And it's whenever you say I will, you need to get rid of it. Because every time you say I will, it's actually simply a delaying mechanism.
Yeah.
Or it's a way to like feel like you've accomplished something without actually doing anything. And I was always trying to communicate that, like, it's the way that you use I will that's a problem. Like, what are you doing? Oh, I was going to go down and get, a snack. But, okay, well, you pick me up, some chips on the way up. Okay, I will. That's a normal way to use I will. But there is a way to use I will in the sense of like, oh, you know what? I will mow the lawn. Did you just mow the lawn? Did you actually delay it? Did you procrastinate? What did you use I will as a mechanism to basically get out of any sort of accountability on a goal level, achievement level?
I think this is a common thing for teenagers to do.
Oh yeah, of course it is.
But so if you set goals that are, especially least for me, the delayed part.
I do want to go back. I do want to go back to the gamer thing, because the thing is that we also.
You were saying Diablo 2 was not a smart goal.
The thing is, it's not a smart goal because it's a vapid goal because it's irrelevant. You have to basically look at
That's just the eye. It's a smart eye. It's a smart eye goal.
No, it's one of those things where you have to realize: are you living life by setting this goal and achieving it? The thing is that...
But that's not the definition.
Well, it's part... any vapid goal fulfills one of those terms, or does it have to fulfill all of those terms? I'm saying that if it fulfills one of those terms, it can be a vapid goal. And we actually have a bit of a problem, I think, that is very pervasive in society, where we artificially set goals. And we even congratulate it. So sometimes it's not a vapid goal because we're all like esports, for instance. It can build community and you can actually have very living experiences. But a lot of experiences that we set up and a lot of goals that we make can basically disconnect us with living, right? Which I think is part of this whole thing on how to maximize misery. It's how to basically set yourself into like one frame of mind where you're set in stone, where you're like, you know what? Rather than living life, I'm going to do this thing, or I'm going to use it as an excuse to basically, not engage, or to either feel angry. For instance, something like rage quitting on games would be a good example, because they didn't achieve their vapid goal, which really is irrelevant. Which is why everybody says it's just a game. Why do you have to be mad? It's just a game. Have you seen that?
I don't know.
Are you mad?
I don't know if I've seen that.
Okay, we'll have to visit later. I wonder if I can find it on the internet real quick. It's like, why you mad? Are you? Because like, why are you mad? Right?
Okay.
And it's like, are you? Anyway, it's a meme.
Okay.
Anyway, people set these really sort of artificial goals for themselves that basically either disengages them or allows them to basically really follow their negative emotions.
Here's the thing. I think that with goal setting something that is an irrelevant goal, that is in particular like not irrelevant, but like unproductive.
I think unproductive.
You can set a smart unproductive goal.
I think that's true, but the thing is about whether or not it reaches the irrelevant stage is like, what does the irrelevance really come down to? And it's really whether or not it engages you with either self-improvement or engaging with other people.
Right. You're going a step outside of what I think it's talking about. I think the irrelevant applies to whether the goal is irrelevant or not. Meaning, not in the terms of your life, but in the terms of achieving that thing. So, like, if you have a goal to collect all the things in Diablo, it's not whether or not set collecting in Diablo is irrelevant to your life. The I in Vapid for that would be, is the actions you're taking to do the set collecting, are those irrelevant to the set collecting?
I think we're going to have to, like...
So... We're gonna
have to contact CGP Grey directly.
No, he will not like that.
And get him to define what he means exactly by irrelevance. Is it irrelevance in the term of
whoever made up this term is who we need to contact. But no, I think
could be the person who wrote the book, possibly.
No, because I think the smart and vapid goals are a thing beyond that. I've encountered smart goals before.
Okay.
So no, I think that the irrelevancy has to do with the way you're accomplishing that particular goal. How you make your goals and how you decide what they will be, that's like unrelated to whether they're smart or vapid. I think that has to do with whether or not you can be introspective and understand what's going to make you self-improved or self-actualized. And making a goal smart or vapid will help you accomplish that particular one, but it won't tell you whether that goal is good or not.
Well, I think what CGP Grey was trying to basically say is, can you use goal setting to actually pursue self-destruction, right? He's like saying, how do you maximize misery? How do you like really kind of like tear down your life? And the thing is that can you fill it with something else? And of course the answer is yes, you can fill it, especially with vapid goals. Well, what kind of are there any other types of goals that you can basically fill your life with that basically are a self-destructive purpose? For instance, we got a little bit sidetracked, but like on one of the things would be, how do you personally use your own compulsive nature to be self-destructive? So if you look at gambling, you can have a compulsion that at the same time you can even engage with people before then, but because you've not done any sort of actual analysis on whether or not this process is healthy for you, you can actually pursue this to a self-destructive end. And you can do this with pretty much anything.
I know. I'm thinking of, okay, in the video he makes an example of a SMART goal, which is the person in the video is steering a boat, and they're like, move the boat wheel 1 degree to the left right now. Yeah. And I think the part of that would instead turn from relevant to irrelevant is instead of saying 1 degree to the left, saying 180 degrees around, right? Then it would be the eye and irrelevant.
Well,
not that you shouldn't necessarily be steering the boat if that's somebody else's job, right? That's not what the irrelevance tells you. The irrelevance tells you in that particular goal what is the relevant action to be taking to achieve that goal. It can't tell you whether you should be steering the boat or whether you should be manning the sails. That is like totally unrelated to me.
So let's have you give me some examples of what you would consider vapid goals.
I like the boat analogy pretty well. It would be like if you vague, hey, I need you to get the ship here instead of I need you to steer the ship.
Or maybe something.
Okay.
My thing is be like I think it might be a good idea to visit an island.
Right. It's vague. It's amorphous. It's pie in the sky. It has like no direction.
There's no mechanisms on how you're going to go visit the island.
It's maybe irrelevant. Maybe you aren't. Maybe you need to not visit an island. Maybe you need to visit the mainland. And if it was delayed, you could say,
well, there's no
in some time from now.
Well, I didn't even give a time. I just
right.
don't think I should visit an island.
So, and in defining that goal, you might find that all those things come to be defined because you're going to go to the mainland. It's for merchanting. You need to do it next week.
I don't run into a lot. I'd like to go visit an island. I don't really find that people actually use that on a pragmatical level. I find that what people do is that they misappropriate what they think of as being assertive or what would be a SMART goal. They think that they're making a SMART goal, but because they've been vague...
That's because they didn't write down the word... Like, have you ever took a goal, wrote down the acronym SMART next to it, and tried to define each one of these aspects?
No.
It's pretty hard. I've done it. I went through, I had 20 goals that I wanted to accomplish, and I tried to define their time and how specific they were, and I tried to make it measurable. I tried to do which actions I would take in doing them, and I tried to make them doable. That's realistic.
Okay, well, I mean, we kind of...
And it's really hard.
The only thing I can think of is SMART goal that we had is hanging the pictures on the wall. We're going to do it this weekend.
You are hanging the pictures. You're being specific.
Well,
do you know which pictures?
Actually, we know which pictures.
Okay. Okay.
So part of the knowing which part goes.
Do you know how many you're going to?
You have to figure out how many you're going to put on what wall, what pictures are going to go on the wall.
And then your goal is to put the nail in the thing and hang them. As
far as the mechanism goes, you'll have to do some measurement to understand.
It's realistic. You could hang them in a weekend. It's time oriented. Yeah, so those are all specific goals.
I mean, I could name a goal
but
that's like
your
SMART goal.
But what I'm trying to say is your time this weekend might be better off spent mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
Right?
I have to mow the lawn too, but that's a vapid goal because I have no idea when I'm going to do that.
But knowing which one of those things, before you define all the SMART aspects, knowing which one of those you're going to do this weekend, that is determined by another mechanism besides defining the goal.
Well, I think where you might get value out of it, because hanging the pictures this weekend, some people do struggle with that. John Green, for instance, part of the Vlog Brothers, he's talked about in the past, which I think is very accurate, the difference between what is a simple action and what is an easy action. You might be able to find it to be very simple to hang pictures on the wall. That might be a simple task. But whether or not it's easy or not, or whether you find it hard, is whether or not how invested are you in that process, right? You might find it very hard to make the time to find the motivation, or even to be like, you know what? I'm missing that one tool. I'm missing the hammer that's going to drive the nails into the drywall so I can hang my pictures. So and it takes that extra... You got to go to the hardware store. Yep. And for some reason, go into the hardware store because it's not part of your normal routine is very hard.
And maybe, if you want to go a step deeper, your car's broken down.
Right.
So first, you need to take an Uber.
Alternative means,
Maybe you need to take an Uber to the mechanic to make sure they can schedule your car in. You need to call the towing people. You have to wait for your car to get fixed. Then you can go to the hardware store. Or you have to order an Uber and go to the hardware store in the meantime.
All to accomplish the very simple task
of putting a nail into a
wall
wall
and hanging a picture. Yes.
And so I think that's like about everything, at least that I have to say about it.
We could probably talk about it quite a bit more, but I think we probably do need to wrap it up.
Yeah, and like I think it's an interesting idea to go opposite, and instead of being like, I am looking for happiness, go, what makes me so miserable? Let's make that super extreme, and then you like know what to avoid. You know what not to do.
That's what his thing was when he was talking about not trying to pursue happiness directly. It's like a lot of times, like what you do is self-defeatist. So it's not necessarily like if you want to try to pursue happiness, don't focus necessarily so much on the happiness, but just to try to improve all the things in which you know you have problems on. Like if something is self-destructive that you know that you do, maybe don't follow your instincts and just go for the comfortable level. Do the comfortable thing, but maybe step outside your comfort box a little bit and, you know, follow the logical course of reasoning and just try to like not be bad. Like don't fall into the same sort of, you know, I'm going to stay still, watch Netflix and chill trap that you can get into. Although Netflix I know that has other context. Hey, you know what? Sometimes that could be used as a great avoidance mechanism, right? Be like, got some friends? Hey, do you want to come out with us and have a good time, live your life? No, that's okay. I'm going to Netflix and chill. And sometimes that's true. And sometimes you just made that shit up because you wanted to be antisocial and you were lying to your friend.
Yeah, that totally happens.
Yeah, I know.
Like, hey, we wanted you to come out. No, I'm busy.
Yeah.
I'm busy being alone in a room with a book.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, thanks for listening. We'll do another one of these.
Yeah, if we didn't obviously cover this as much as it could be covered, so if you have any comments or questions and you really want to talk to us,
leave
go
them
ahead.
in the thing.
Leave them in some sort of description that is available to you, and like we'd love the feedback and like basically
that's totally true.
Do communication back and forth with a hypothetical version of you, obviously, since you probably won't be joining us on the podcast. Well, we can answer your questions.
They could join.
Yeah,
us.
I mean,
we're open to it.
If you want to be proactive about it. This is a possibility. It is a possibility.
And now the guy with the funny voice will play us out.
This has been a Gravity Well podcast. Thank you for listening and have a lovely day. We'll see you next time.